Hello, in this video tutorial we will look in details at the tool that is called Color Palette. This tool allows to analyze visually the maximum and minimum values for the results of displacements, forces, stress, reinforcement of elements, and the selection and check of still sections. Let's look at the parameters of Color Palette setting on already calculated problem. In the top results, in the deformations panel, activate the display of vertical displacements according to z-axis. Initially, the color palette that shows the graduation of displacements is located at the top of the screen workspace, and in the numerical and color format shows the displacements from the largest to smallest. In the left end of the color palette is a form that displays the type of load case, measured values, whether it is displacement, stress, reinforcement, etc., and units of measurements. Then go to the Tools panel and activate the command Refresh Color Palette in fragmentation mode. This command is used to obtain the new actual color palette for elements after scheme fragmentation. Let's see how it works. For this purpose, perform the fragmentation of upper floor slab. Project scheme on the plane XOZ and select all the nodes and elements of the upper floor slab. Next, click the button Fragmentation and return to the view of diametric projection. As we can see, the graduation of displacements values changed from the values for the whole scheme on the current values only for the fragmented elements. Next, look at the command Refresh Color Palette in Zoom mode. This command allows us to update the scale automatically depending on the selected items. Let's see how this command works. Activate it in the Tools panel. For clarity, a little zoom the upper left part of the slab. As we can see, the scale has changed and now shows only the values of displacements which are within the working space of the screen. Return the view of the floor slab in the same position, and Color Palette shows the values for the whole scheme again. Now look at the configuration parameters of the Color Palette. On the Tools panel, open dialog box Parameters of Color Palette. In Open dialog box displays the parameters that can be changed for the more comfortable user work. There are two kinds of Color Palette display, Discrete and Gradient. Discrete Color Palette represents discontinuous color segments that in turn are divided by numeric values. Discrete color palette is initially displayed by default. Let's change the color palette on a gradient one and apply the changes. As we can see on the screen, the color palette becomes as one continuous line and displays only the maximum and minimum values without intermediate values. Color palette can be placed in two positions on the screen, horizontal on top and vertically on the left. The user selects the convenient placement of the palette. Let's us return to the view of discrete palette. Let's look what is for extremum radio button. If you make the button inactive, the field minimum and maximum will be available for editing. Suppose we are interested in the values of displacements only for -50 mm and above, while the remaining values do not interest us. In the maximum, set the value -50 and confirm changes. We see that the values less than -50 paint pink. Thus, it is convenient to analyze the area of interest. Restore the view of the whole scheme. Now let's go to the Forces in Bars panel and select the display of actual force diagram N. Next, select the display of the results in the form of mosaic plot. Once again, go to the dialog box Parameters for the color scale. In Opened window, click the radio button Customize and go to the Colors tab. This option also provides the ability to display the range of interest values. Clicking on the color range, it will be deactivated in the scheme but not on the scale. Suppose we are interested in only the positive values. Cancel all the ranges except the last one and confirm the changes. We see that in the scheme is only one color with positive values. Further, let's go to the Stress in Plates and Solids panel. Click the button that displays stresses along x-axis. Once again, click the radio button Customize. In the top ranges, you can customize your own range without uniform step. Suppose the value up to plus 50 is not interesting for us and can be displayed as one segment. However, the value from plus 50 and above requires more detailed consideration, with the step equal to 5 tones meter per meter. Having changed the range of values, we see that the color palette has changed, and as a result, there was change in the display on the scheme. Now let's go on the Design tab. On the Reinforced Concrete Plates panel, click the button that displays the upper reinforcement along x-axis. Next, go to the Tools panel and click on the Parameters of Color Palette button. That opens a number of functions. Open the dialog box Initial Setting for Color Palette. Here in the first tab, for plates reinforcement, we can see two forms of plate display: numerical and formula, which is by the default. Numerical form shows actual amount of reinforcement that is required for the element. If the work in the construction company is divided into units, then for the person who performs the analysis will be more convenient to give the design engineer the variant of numerical display of reinforcement. Get back in Initial Settings for Color Palette and change the numerical display on the Formula one, as well as deal with the function of bar fixation. This provides the ability to display the reinforcement in the form of a number of bars, a step of arrangement of bars, and their diameters. By default, the reinforcement arranged for diameter. Change the arrangement for step. Then select the step of 200 mm and confirm changes. The scale shows the fitting with different diameters, but with step of 200 mm. Suppose in the warehouse we have only two kinds of reinforcement of the 12th and 14th diameter. Diameter 12th we want to set as a structural reinforcement and 14th in places where we need the strengthening. To do this, go to the panel Tools and open the dialog box Parameters for Color Palette. Remove all values and set 12th and 14th diameter with a step of 200 mm and confirm the changes. As we see, the reinforcement of the 12th and 14th diameter are unable to provide enough strength of the slab. Thus, it is necessary to enhance a place with missing reinforcement. This can be done as follows. The first method is the increase of reinforcement step, for instance 150 mm, or formally set the reinforcement. For this purpose, the 14th diameter reinforcement must be added with 12th diameter with the same step. Thus, in areas with missing reinforcement will be two kinds of reinforcement. This method is relevant for places of punching in slabs. Also, after changing, user can save current reinforcement for use in other problems. Then go to the Reinforced Concrete Bars, open the dialog box Initial Settings for Color Palette and select the second tab Corner Reinforcement. Select a display function for the number of bars. In this field we choose one rod. Then go to the third tab Distributed Reinforcement and select to fix bars according to diameter and select the diameter equal to 20 mm. Confirm the changes. Afterwards, look through the results that are displayed on the palette. Now consider the option for changing the color range of Color Palette. Go to the Tools panel and open the dialog box Select Color. There is ability to change the color palette ranges for reinforcement. Deselect Radio button view and select the kind of reinforcement for which you want to change the color DIN. Next, click on the button to the right of the color DIN and in the dialog box select necessary range of colors. Then click the Assign button and then apply the changes. If necessary, the user can save the color DIN and use it in the further problems. That is all. Thank you for your attention.